In northern New Mexico, there's a tiny town you won't find on most maps, Dulce. It covers less than 15 square kilometers, sparsely populated, with barely a few convenience stores. But the strange thing is, this quiet place that feels forgotten by time is considered by countless conspiracy theorists to be the most dangerous and untouchable forbidden zone in America. Since the 1970s, unexplained phenomena have repeatedly appeared in the night skies around Dulce, white glowing orbs hovering motionless in the air, livestock on nearby ranches found mutilated with no blood on the ground, and metallic noises echoing from underground late at night. Even more disturbing, some locals claim they had seen half-human, half-lizard creatures roaming in the valleys. If these events had happened separately, people might chalk them up to coincidence. But when they all occur in the same remote little town, the shadow of a conspiracy becomes impossible to dispel. After decades of accumulating sightings, the bizarre things people reported around Dulce eventually merged into something more terrifying than Area 51. Something harder to trace and closer to forbidden, the legend of the Dulce base, which many believe is an underground facility jointly operated by the U.S. government and reptilian beings. Rumor has it that after the Roswell incident, the U.S. began secretly working with extraterrestrials. Because the U.S. coveted their advanced technology, the government allegedly made an unethical decision that violated national principles. Helped the aliens capture humans for secret experiments in exchange for some of their technology. And the Dulce base is believed to be one of the places where these experiments took place after the agreement was made. It's said the base contains 7 underground levels, each dedicated to incomprehensible projects like alien technology, hybrid genetics, mind control, and interspecies breeding. But what's even scarier than the rumors is that none of this has ever been officially denied, nor has it ever been confirmed. The reason the Dulce base legend grew from local folklore to a global urban myth comes down to one key figure, Paul Bennewitz. In 1979, this engineer, who held a PhD in physics and had previously designed military communication systems for the Coast Guard, was running a small humidity sensor company. Bennewitz had few hobbies, except one. He was obsessed with capturing electromagnetic signals in the desert. He always said those invisible waves hid the secrets of the universe. One day, Bennewitz was tuning a homemade broadband receiver in his garage when he swept across 1,420 megahertz. A sharp buzzing suddenly pierced through his headphones, like a needle stabbing directly into his eardrum. Bennewitz immediately realized it wasn't static from a desert storm, nor was it a military encrypted channel. He quickly adjusted the dial and locked onto the signal. What he found was disturbing. The pulses were so precise they were almost eerie. 3 beats per second, perfectly timed, like a high-precision instrument communicating internally. He switched on the spectrum analyzer. The waveform on the screen was a perfect sine wave, far more stable than anything human communication technology was capable of at the time. Even more alarming, the signal direction indicator pointed consistently toward Dulce. Based on signal decay, he calculated that the source wasn't in the air. It was at least 1,000 meters underground. For the next 3 weeks, Bennewitz became nocturnal. He drove out into the desert near Dulce with his equipment, set up a tent at the base of the mountains, and monitored the signals all night long. The transmissions never stopped, humming like a machine deep beneath the earth. Then something even stranger happened on a full moon night. While recording data, he noticed a faint orange glow in the sky to the northwest. The light hovered above the top of Archuleta Mesa, with no trail and no engine sound, and its flickering rhythm matched the pulses in his headphones perfectly. Suddenly, the object made an impossible turn, one that violated the laws of physics, and vanished behind the mountain, leaving only a faint smell of ozone in the air. Shaken, Bennewitz began gathering information obsessively. During his interviews, an old local man told him that 10 years earlier, someone had seen tall, green-skinned reptilian beings on a nearby ranch. They walked without making a sound, their eyes glowing coldly, and they carried weapons resembling laser guns, devices that could emit high-temperature beams capable of slicing through objects instantly. If he had heard these stories in the past, Bennewitz would have dismissed them as rural tall tales. But now the precise pulses he discovered and the unidentified glowing object in the sky were weaving together into a web that made it hard for him to breathe. Over the next 3 months, Benowitz organized all the monitoring logs, spectrum charts, and eyewitness accounts he had collected into a thick stack of documents and drove them to Kirtland Air Force Base. He believed his findings were shocking enough to alert the military. After all, the base was only about 20 kilometers from his lab, and the direction of the signal source fell within a military-restricted zone. But when Benowitz arrived at Kirtland with his files, the officer who received him showed almost no reaction after learning why he was there. He took the documents without even glancing at them, simply saying he would report it up the chain, then hurried Benowitz out. Confused, Benowitz couldn't understand why something this serious would be dismissed so casually. He tried to comfort himself by thinking that once the higher-ups read the details, they would realize the gravity of the situation. But what Benowitz never expected was that a week later, instead of recognition from the base commander, he was greeted by the IRS showing up at his door. Citing accounting irregularities, they shut down his company, instantly putting 30 employees out of work, and left his financial records in complete disarray. Soon afterward, Benowitz noticed that every time he left home, a black SUV followed him in his rearview mirror. Its windows were tinted so dark he couldn't see who was inside. After being shadowed for several days, one night he came home to find his garage door pried open. His lab had been rummaged through, his signal logs tampered with, and, most importantly, the copies of his spectrum charts were gone. The next morning, an anonymous letter appeared in his mailbox. The handwriting was messy. It contained only one sentence. "Stop watching things that aren't yours. Otherwise, the desert will swallow you." After that, Benowitz began struggling with insomnia. At night, he constantly heard faint sounds coming from the ceiling, as if someone were listening in. One time when he picked up the phone, there was no voice on the other end, only the same pulsing tone he heard through his headphones. It lasted a full minute before the line disconnected. Slowly, Benowitz became convinced he had uncovered an earth-shattering secret. The underground signals, the lights in the sky, the reptile-like beings. Every clue pointed to the same conclusion. There was a non-human base hidden beneath Dulce, and the US government knew all about it, maybe even collaborating with it. Benowitz gathered what little material he still had and attached a short statement. The US government is working with non-human life under the ground in New Mexico. They are engaged in some kind of exchange, one that will change the fate of humanity. He made 100 copies of his files and mailed them to UFO research groups across the country, several independent media outlets, and even a few members of Congress. Sure enough, within weeks, the name Dulce Underground Base began appearing in various conspiracy publications, drawing widespread attention. Most people dismissed Benowitz as a lunatic, refusing to take anything he said seriously. Everyone except a man named Phil Schneider. Phil Schneider's appearance added a disturbing footnote to what many had called Benowitz's nonsense. This engineer, who claimed to have worked on the construction of the Dulce underground facility, always appeared at the 1980 UFO forums wearing long-sleeve shirts that covered his left arm, with his collar buttoned all the way up, as if hiding something. Then during his first public talk, he rolled up his sleeve in front of more than 300 people, revealing a bowl-sized scar on his forearm. The edges were tinted an odd bluish purple, as if burned by some kind of high-energy heat source. Schneider went on to explain, "This scar isn't a workplace injury. I got it in 1979 at the Dulce base, shot by one of the reptilian beings. That day, we broke through a layer of rock and dug straight into their territory." According to Phil's account, in 1977, he was hired by an engineering company that worked with the military. Their mission was to dig tunnels beneath the Archuleta Mesa. The official explanation was that they were building a nuclear waste storage facility. The engineering team used the most advanced laser drilling machines at the time. These machines melted rock into magma using high temperatures, and special equipment would then cool the molten rock into smooth tunnel walls. With these drilling machines, they could dig 7 miles of tunnel in a single day. When the team reached a depth of 300 meters, they discovered a natural cavern. The cave walls were covered in crystalline formations that looked like scales, and the air carried a faint smell of sulfur. The temperature inside the cavern stayed at a constant 22 degrees Celsius, forming a strange contrast with the freezing cold on the surface. The team reported the situation to the commanding officer, who ordered them to continue deeper, but no one knew what awaited them. At dawn on August 17, 1977, excavation suddenly came to a halt. The rock layer ahead was abnormally hard, and even the laser drill's cutting head had been ground flat to no effect. When an experienced worker used explosives to open a gap in the rock, a foul-smelling gust of cold air surged out. As the smoke cleared, organized footsteps could be heard echoing from deeper inside the cavern. Phil raised his mining lamp and shined it forward. In the dim light, he saw a scene he would never forget. A group of more than a dozen reptilian humanoids standing upright. They were nearly 2 meters tall, their skin covered with pale green scales. Their heads were much wider than a human's, and their yellow eyes contained vertical pupils that contracted and expanded like a snake's. Their arms were unusually long, and they had only 3 fingers, each tipped with a sharp claw that gleamed under the lamp. Before anyone could react, the reptilian beings raised their arms and fired a blue beam of light, striking the colleague standing next to Phil. The man didn't even have time to scream. His body carbonized instantly. Once this happened, the workers scattered in chaos. In the panic, Phil grabbed a hydraulic jackhammer and smashed it against the nearest reptilian being. He clearly saw the jackhammer's head strike its shoulder, splitting the scales and releasing a thick green fluid. At that moment, Phil himself was hit in the left arm by another beam. The pain was so intense that he immediately lost consciousness. When he woke up, he found himself in a military hospital. 2 fingers on his left hand had been amputated due to nerve damage, and his forearm carried a bull-sized scar. This incident, later called the Dulce War, supposedly resulted in the deaths of 62 humans, according to Phil. As for the Reptilians' casualties, no one knew. The military sealed off the entire area, and even the bodies of the dead workers were never returned to their families. Only a missing person compensation payment was issued. Phil's speech caused an uproar in the UFO community, but criticism quickly followed. Some claimed his scar was simply the after effect of a burn injury, that his missing fingers were caused by a workplace accident, and that all his talk about reptilian beings was fabricated. Facing widespread doubt, Phil appeared again in a 1982 lecture and produced a black, scale-like object, which he claimed was a trophy he took from the Dulce base. It looked exactly like it came from a reptilian creature. The scale was about the size of a coin with fine surface patterns. When burned with a lighter, it did not ignite. Instead, it emitted a faint blue glow. He promised on the spot that he would send the scale to a lab for testing. But not long after, news broke that Phil had died by suicide. In January 1983, Phil was found dead in his Oregon apartment. The official conclusion was that he had strangled himself with a catheter tube. But those who knew him were well aware that due to his injury, his left arm was nearly immobile, making such a method of suicide almost impossible. Even stranger was that all the research materials in his home, along with the scale and every item related to the Dulce base, had vanished without a trace, as if they had never existed. Phil's forced suicide cast an even darker layer of conspiracy over the legend of the Dulce base. Later, the person who truly exposed the horrors inside the Dulce facility was former base security officer Thomas Costello. Sent in 1979 to oversee the monitoring systems there, Thomas originally believed his job was simply to guard an ordinary military installation, until the day he opened the main control panel of the central surveillance system. The images on the screens made his whole body turn cold. According to Thomas, the Dulce base was essentially an underground city jointly built by humans and extraterrestrials. It had a total of 12 levels, stacked like a giant layer cake inside the rock. Levels 1 through 3 were under U.S. military control and contained cafeterias, dormitories, and standard laboratories. Level 4 was the transition zone, where humans and aliens exchanged supplies. The signs here were written in both English and a claw-like script. Everything below level 5 belonged to the reptilian beings and was known as the restricted zone. Only those with level 7 clearance or higher were allowed to enter. Thomas's clearance allowed him to view surveillance for levels 1 through 6. At first, all he saw were normal scenes: soldiers patrolling hallways and researchers in white lab coats entering and exiting laboratories. But during a repair of the surveillance equipment, He accidentally entered a backup password Phil had once mentioned in a forum. The screens instantly switched to footage he had never seen before. It showed a massive chamber on level 6, about the size of a football field. The space was filled with transparent glass pods and iron cages. Inside the pods floated all kinds of deformed organisms. Winged human infants, arms covered in scales, and shapes so distorted they were impossible to identify, just writhing masses of flesh. The cages held living humans, mostly women and children. They seemed to have been sedated. Their eyes stared blankly at the ceiling. At regular intervals, personnel in protective suits would enter, draw their blood with large syringes, or take one of them away. Those taken never returned. Thomas eventually learned, through quiet inquiries, that the imprisoned individuals were all untraceable populations from around the world. People who had vanished without a trail. Using his security privileges, he secretly recorded dozens of victims' names and addresses. During leave, he contacted police friends who confirmed that all those individuals were indeed listed in missing persons databases as disappeared without a trace. This discovery plunged Thomas into deep internal conflict, torn between his military duty and his conscience. In the end, he decided to work with several colleagues who shared his unease to expose the truth about the base. One night during a shift change, they used a miniature camera to film level 6 and copied portions of the base's internal files. Among them was a document titled Extraterrestrial Species Cooperation Agreement, which explicitly stated the U.S. side will provide human test subjects. The extraterrestrial side will provide advanced energy technology. Thomas escaped the Dulce base with this evidence and eventually fled to Costa Rica. He made multiple copies of the materials and mailed them to UFO research organizations around the world. Along with the files, he left a message. If he were to go missing or die, the information should be made public. In the second half of 1981, news broke that Thomas had died in a car accident in Costa Rica. The organizations that received his materials immediately published everything online. Though the footage from level 6 was blurry, it was enough to shock the world. According to the documents, the purpose of the experiments on level 6 was to create human extraterrestrial hybrids. The reptilian beings believed these hybrids would adapt better to Earth's environment and serve as intermediary agents for their eventual domination of the planet. The humans kept in captivity were not only experimental subjects, but also a food source for the reptilians. They required periodic extraction of human glandular secretions, especially adrenochrome, produced when humans were in extreme fear or excitement. For the reptilian beings, this substance was essential for sustaining their life and strength. Thomas also provided a detailed structural diagram of the Dulce base, clearly marking the functional layout of all 12 levels. Level 1 is the human-controlled security floor, equipped with fully automated surveillance, unmarked armed units, and iris and DNA identification. Level 2 is the Maglev train station, with tunnels leading to Area 51 and the Los Alamos National Laboratory. The trains here can reach Mach 2, and it takes only 40 minutes to travel from Dulce to Area 51. Level 3 is the Human Research Zone, mainly used for reverse engineering alien technology. Level 4 is the Diplomatic Zone, where negotiations and material exchanges between humans and the reptilians take place. Level 5 is the Reptilians living area, featuring nest-like living pods and energy supply devices. Level 6 is the Experimental Zone, which includes gene editing labs as well as many failed experimental subjects kept here, such as half-human, half-reptile creatures and highly deformed humanoids. Everything below Level 7 is an even higher-level restricted zone, and not even Thomas had clearance to view it. It's said that this level extends dozens of meters deep, and the walls are not made of metal, but of a mixture of stone and a strange black material. According to rumors, it contains a fully intact alien spacecraft, an energy core, and human corpses that cannot be exposed to the public. The strongest reptilian guards are stationed there. Not only that, but the materials Thomas took out also included information describing the reptilians' biological characteristics. According to the documents, reptilians are cold-blooded creatures who hate sunlight. Their body temperature is about 10 degrees Celsius lower than that of humans, and when you approach them, you can feel an obvious chill, which is why they can only live underground. Their scales not only resist physical attacks, but when threatened, they secrete a transparent mucus that forms a protective membrane over their bodies. This membrane is extremely strong. Even bullets cannot penetrate it. One of Thomas's colleagues once fired a handgun at a reptilian. The bullet hit the scales, leaving only a white mark before bouncing off. Even more shocking is the reptilians' ability to disguise themselves. Thomas said he had seen reptilian administrative staff inside the base. These reptilians can contract their scales and alter their skin pigmentation, allowing them to disguise themselves as humans. Even their pupils temporarily turn round. When mixed among human workers, they're nearly impossible to identify. But this disguise is not perfect. When emotionally agitated or injured, it fails. Thomas once witnessed a reptilian female secretary get into an argument, and scales suddenly appeared on her neck, while her pupils instantly reverted to vertical slits, causing the person she was arguing with to faint on the spot. As this information spread, more and more witnesses connected to the Dulce base began to surface. A radar operator who once worked at the White Sands Missile Range said that in 1981, he saw multiple unidentified flying objects take off from Archuleta Mesa on his radar screen. These craft were 3 times faster than fighter jets and could instantly vanish from radar detection. A former CIA employee anonymously revealed in 2013 that the U.S. government sends at least 500 experimental subjects to the Dulce base every year. Most of these people come from prisons, orphanages, and war-torn refugee zones. Their records are marked as deceased or permanently missing. These fragmented pieces of information were linked together in 2013 by the words of one man, forming a more complete picture. That man was Edward Snowden, who exposed the PRISM program. While living in Russia, Snowden mentioned during an interview with RT that he had seen a report classified as top secret, titled Draconian Reptilian Species Earth Infiltration Report. He said the report indicated that the reptilians were not merely living in underground bases, but had already infiltrated every level of human society through genetic disguise. At least 500 global celebrities were their hosts, including presidents of certain countries, multinational CEOs, and Hollywood stars. Snowden also stated that the reptilians control global finance and media, aiming to keep humanity in a constant state of inequality, warfare, and fear, making humans easier to manipulate. Reptilians never want human civilization to evolve, because an evolved humanity would threaten their rule. Snowden's comments escalated the Dulce base legend from an alien conspiracy to a global domination plan. Although he provided no direct evidence, when considered alongside previous rumors, his claims terrified countless people. Snowden also mentioned that aside from the Dulce base, reptilians have built multiple underground cities across the Earth. The most famous is Draco City beneath the Antarctic ice sheet. Rumor has it that this is the reptilians' headquarters on Earth. From there, they can access other bases around the world through underground tunnels, reaching depths of up to 3,000 meters, wide enough for disc-shaped craft to travel through. In 2006, a scientific expedition team discovered a massive underground cavern in Antarctica. Inside the cavern was a mysterious heat source of unknown origin. Satellite images showed that the ice layer above the cavern had a series of evenly shaped circular depressions resembling marks left by spacecraft taking off and landing. Even the Churchill bunker extension beneath London is rumored to be one of the reptilian bases. This World War II-era bunker was allegedly redesigned to become a forward outpost for reptilian infiltration into European politics. Some witnesses claimed they had seen people with greenish skin on the London Underground walking into a hidden passage behind a wall. The entrance to the passage even had the same claw-mark symbols found in the Dulce base. Meanwhile, the U.S. government has always maintained silence regarding the reptilian legends connected to the Dulce base, neither confirming nor denying them. A reporter once asked the Pentagon about Dulce base, and the official response was, "The area is a military restricted zone, and we cannot disclose related information." On the official maps of New Mexico, the area near Archuleta Mesa has long been marked as unexplored, but in reality, military helicopters patrol the region year-round, making it impossible for ordinary people to approach. Even stranger, all satellite images of the Dulce base region on Google Maps are blurred, preventing anyone from seeing details. Some experts attempted to examine the area using professional satellite imaging software, only to find that the relevant image data had already been manually deleted. As time has passed, the legends of the Dulce base and the Reptilians have continued to evolve, with more and more details being added, making it increasingly difficult to distinguish truth from fiction. Some believe it is nothing more than a carefully crafted conspiracy theory, a fantasy woven by UFO enthusiasts and thrill seekers. Others firmly believe the legends are real and that the truth has been concealed because it is too disruptive. Regardless of the truth, the legend of the Dulce base has become one of the most influential modern urban myths. It touches on humanity's deepest fears of the unknown, suspicions of power, and reflections on our place in the universe.